Hello, everybody. This is James Caulkins, one of your classmates in the Los Angeles area. Today, I'm going to be reviewing my project, which was an analysis of the California water crisis, talking about the major issues at hand and the related conservation techniques and strategies we have to hopefully avoid some major disasters in the future. California's water situation, as most of you know, is quickly turning from that of a crisis to one of catastrophic potential. According to California's EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, our projected population increase combined with our water consumption and current water systems will lead to a complete elimination of resources, including reservoirs, rivers, and snowpack, by 2020. Without immediate measures to combat water misuse and the implementation of mandatory conservation laws, California will quickly sink into an irreversible state. Our history tells us all too well of the social, economic, and environmental devastation that occurs in areas of the world without access to the planet's most precious resource. Basically, without water, we cannot survive. California faces one of the country's largest increases in urbanization between its four greatest metropolitan areas: LA, San Francisco, San Diego, and Sacramento, Central Valley, the farming area. With that comes a shift in water demand that is more heavily dependent on specific areas where our water plants and distribution systems are not designed to handle that requirement. So much burden is put on our antiquated network of systems in various municipalities that major inefficiencies and water loss is created. Without a major overhaul of California's water plants and systems, there will be no possible way to support the growing population in the years to come. But restricting residential water use can only carry California so far. Cities aren't the greatest users of the state's water supply. Urban areas actually only get about 20% of the state's water supply, while agriculture utilizes the other 80%. Last year, lack of water forced farmers to abandon 400,000 acres of cropland and leave over 1 million acres unplanted in the 2014 year. Some farmers in California have already had their water supply curtailed or completely cut off. In 2013, the state exported $21 billion worth of agriculture. Basically, what that means is it produces nearly half of the produce of nuts and other key consumables in the U.S. Underground water tables and reservoirs are being depleted at rates which nature cannot replenish or recover. With water tables becoming lower and lower, lakes and rivers are not flowing. Our water ecosystem's natural filtration ability is worsening. The results will be unreliable drinking water filled with impurity and toxins. In addition to that, our climate is rapidly changing. California is now approaching its arguably seventh year of drought. 50% of the San Joaquin Valley, once lush farmland, has dried into unusable sand. The Sierra snowpack, which once provided 80% of the state's fresh water, will have completely disappeared by 2022. Our demand for water from the Colorado River continues to increase, although the states of Colorado and Nevada are reducing California's allocation due to their own demands and requirements. Until now, government intervention, both state and federal, have been lackluster at best. Little has been done to create a collaborated and unified strategy to deal with the state's decrepit infrastructure, siloed municipalities, and lack of attention to recycling and conservation. Unfortunately, the average resident of California does not treat our water crisis with much more than a thought before moving on to their other daily activities. I performed a poll in early March of 89 individuals in the San Diego, Manhattan Beach, Santa Monica, and Woodland Hills area as I mentioned at the beginning of March. I found most people are still of the belief that we had some kind of endless water supply. It was actually pretty incredible. When asked, do you believe that California's water crisis is now on the brink of almost irreversible devastation, only 10% believed that we needed immediate legislative measures to significantly reduce water use. 90% were of the mindset that we would find other resources, somehow miraculously, to produce the water that we needed. what I determined was that human beings have trouble realizing why invisible carbon emissions are changing the chemistry of atmosphere and warming the planet. Because the surface of the sea is all we see, it's difficult to understand that we already have taken most of the large fish from the ocean, diminishing a major source of food. Neither of these crises are visible, and that's my point. They are largely out of sight and out of mind. So it's difficult to get excited and respond to this. Disappearing groundwater and disappearing fresh water in California is another out of sight crisis. With the desertification of our Central Valley comes flooding and the inability to effectively store rainwater and other freshwater sources during flooding. Water scarcity can lead to such an economic downturn that civil unrest can occur in certain socioeconomic groups. As the water tables are drained, so are the precious biological and animal life that support our ecosystem. And finally, without the ability for our system of aquifers to effectively filter our water systems, we are presented with a declining level of water quality. Our state is in the process of implementing a mixture of voluntary and mandatory regulations to adjust for scarcity. The Office of Jerry Brown, our governor, in partnership with the California EPA and the PPIC, which is the Public Policy Institute of California, have announced legislative measures to limit residential water use by applying significant surcharges for residential water use. According to the State Water Board, if you exceed the new restrictions, you could end up paying as much for the additional 20% of water as you did for the first 80%. These heavy penalties seem drastic, but then again, so is our water situation. The second major focus will be on the revamping of California's antiquated water systems. Over 25% of water is lost through broken or faulty systems, leaks or evaporation. And finally, the greatest strain on California's water reserves is agriculture. Changing to low water use crops, as well as developing innovative irrigation systems to prevent high levels of evaporation, will be critical to future conservation. So, call to action. What's going on in our state? Local to the Los Angeles metropolitan area, Mayor Garcetti has taken a strong stance to water conservation and has implemented an executive directive to begin dealing with commercial and residential water use. According to the Office of the LA Mayor, the commercial directive is to have a 20% reduction in fresh water use by 2017, about 50% reduction in the Department of Water and Power's acquisition of fresh water by 2014, and from a residential standpoint, provide incentives to install turf, $375 a foot, which was a calculation based on basically an incentive over the cost of installing regular soil and grass, and then rebates for low water landscaping, efficient plumbing, and pool covers. And probably the most enticing to higher net worth individuals would be tax incentives for 2015 and beyond. And a quote that I put in here from Mayor Garcetti, which I really liked, is the fact that our relationship with water must evolve. We cannot afford the water policies of the past. And if anybody knows anything about Mayor Garcetti, he is extremely forward-thinking. If you get a chance to follow some of the changes he's doing in the city, water being the water crisis being one of them, I would absolutely urge that you do so. Although this is an LCA that I created to show the cause and effect of our water systems, it is very similar, although simplified, to the analysis that the California EPA uses to study the conservation and maintenance of our freshwater system in California. When evaluating options for freshwater, like the desalination process, it's critical to understand the true effects of the negative externalities of that process. For example, in this case with desalination, the negative outputs are significant and arguably far exceed the benefits for a clean water supply. For Californians to reach sustainability, we must find equilibrium with our ecosystem. Environmental consciousness economic reform, and ethical decision making will be the only effective strategy to addressing our freshwater resource issue. Although education and voluntary participation at the individual level is extremely important, the time has come for immediate government interaction, both on a state and federal level, to ensure that economic and environmental targets are met. Unfortunately, human nature quickly discards issues, no matter how critical, if they are out of sight and out of mind. Unfortunately, by the time the issues become visible, it will be too late to reverse the damage. All Californians have a stake in our water future. Our actions can put us on a path towards reliability, restoration, and resilience in California water. We must adapt to a new normal and recapture California's resource management leadership and our economic and environmental resiliency and reliability. What we do know for sure is that there are no silver bullets, and there's no single project that's going to fix this problem. We must have a portfolio of actions to comprehensively address these challenges and deal with the problems at hand. Some actions must be taken immediately to address current risks, such as the looming drought and the inadequate safe drinking water for our state's population. Additionally, over the next 5 years, we've got to address fundamental changes into our approach to water resource management and be prepared for the changes the future holds if we hope to live a sustainable life in this state. I'd like to thank everybody for listening, and good luck with all your future endeavors.